After yesterday's surprise Exo Experts announcement, the community immediately started pushing back, ranging from what was included in this upcoming Warbond to what should not have been included, and pretty much everything in between, with heat coming in from a really unlikely source. What happened and the player backlash shows that the studio's plans are flawed, with a lot of concerned eyes not only looking at this Warbond, but also into the future. In case you're new here, please hit subscribe. Swiping to hype the video really helps out. Let's get this thing started. Really unexpected, and I'm going to say completely out of the blue, we received this announcement from Arrowhead concerning a mechanic inside the game that some people know about, while others don't, but it concerns logging into the game during major orders. Attention Helldivers, we've updated the eligibility criteria for major order rewards. Major order rewards will now be granted to players, listen to this, who logged in during the active major order period. This change is intended to better align reward distribution with active participation in each operation. Thank you for your continued service to Super Earth and your contributions to the Galactic War. Now, this system Arrowhead installed into the game has been through a few different variations since launch, because it also involved how they would distribute and award limited time cosmetics to players that did not take part in those events. Recently, the 𝗕𝗏𝘆𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗲𝗄 cape, honoring the 2nd anniversary of the game's launch, had a cutoff date of February 28th, and as long as you logged into the game before that date, you were awarded the cape. Much further back in Helldivers' timeline, the TR-117 Alpha Commander medium medkit armor themed around Halo with the 117 on its chest was a limited time Twitch drop, and then it was taken away and then reappeared when the game awards rolled around, and so on. So we've seen these kind of cutoffs with specific items, but as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, when it comes to major order medals, you could step away from Helldivers for a long period of time, come back, and once you were logged back in, you'd have all those successful major order medals stockpiled up, or at least enough to get you up to the cap of 250. A long time ago, I also think I remember seeing Arrowhead respond to a few player comments who were not able to log in, say for example if they were deployed overseas, and if I remember correctly, the answer they received was that they had to log into the game within 2 months of the cosmetic reward in order to receive it. So, I've got to say, this is quite the 180 for Arrowhead to now take, now limiting medals to those players who were able to log on only during the active major order. But, as this top comment reads, so, log in, quit, profit, got it. Referring to the point that the new announcement doesn't say you have to participate and fight in said major order, just that you have to log in. On a side note, I've read many of your comments outlining the pros and cons of participation rewards versus rewards for everyone, rewarded at any time, but it would be interesting to get a fresh perspective on where the community stands on this specific topic. So, do me a favor, drop me a comment with your honest thoughts. Are you for a system where only those that were logged on get the rewards, or should it have stayed where it was, with everyone getting the rewards regardless of if they were able to participate? Maybe you would like to see a hybrid system of cosmetics for everyone but medals for participating, that sort of thing. This ought to be an interesting discussion for sure, and I'm looking forward to reading your feedback. And I'm also sitting here wondering again, why the sudden course change? Is this something that's been in the works for a while now at Arrowhead, or is this more of a knee-jerk reaction aimed at driving up player engagement? I honestly don't know, but I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on this one. Obviously, with yesterday, we got the Exo Experts Warbond trailer reveal, which I broke down with my brutally honest thoughts in this video. But let's just say that the feedback posted, especially that on the unofficial but sort of official Helldivers Reddit, has been extra spicy. Remember, this is the same Reddit community that doxed Mr. Redacted for daring to issue the Arrowhead devs a good-spirited charity challenge. So it tends to be, let's call it a curated community of whatever changes happen to the game, they're good, and if you dare to call out issues, you bad kind of Reddit community. So to see this particular Reddit respond to the Exo Experts trailer in this manner has been really shocking. Besides the numerous posts asking why the trailer was slaughtering 𝗲 soldiers left, right, and center, which is a good question, this post just simply asks, why are the new mechs behind a paywall? And it's earned over 11,000 upvotes, which is a ton of upvotes, and I'm actually a little bit surprised it's been allowed to stay up and hasn't been taken down for whatever rule violations the mods of this Reddit feel like attaching to it. We'll touch on mech durability and my concerns with that a bit later in this video, but here's a post from the same Reddit saying, nerf exosuit durability, sell us one with a shield. And this one has over 4,500 upvotes with the text underneath that says just sarcastically, of course, I'm sure the shield has unlimited durability like the heavy Devastator. Other posts, and this is a point I touched on in yesterday's video, were aimed at how Exo Experts seems cobbled together and didn't make any sense. Armor specialized for piloting exosuits makes you run faster on foot. Well, here's another that says, everybody's upset about the Warbond selling exosuits. I'm upset because the dedicated exosuit Warbond is only 24% exosuit related. Which, by the way, is a point I saw more than a few of you comment about yesterday. And really, when you look at the Warbond built around being an Exo Expert and you take away the player banner and the title, this mech-centric Warbond has the 2 new suits, and I guess you could loosely tie the new skin in there as well, although that can be applied to all of our vehicles. So again, it's not solely for our mechs. But really, when you start to get to the heart of this matter, the sentiment that the community was starting to express was, enough's enough, man. Like this post. Hasn't released a single stratagem through an MO in over a year, locks 2 of the most awaited kind of stratagems behind a Warbond, farm it for hours or pay for it. And just to remind everyone out there, because I'm sure someone's gonna mention the Bastion tank, that wasn't earned through the successful completion of a major order. It was just given to us prior to the attack on Cyberstan, and then also simultaneously nerfed just before that campaign through the buffing of enemy durable damage versus all of our armored vehicles. This trend of just cosmetics being sold to us in the Superstore has gradually fallen down the slippery slope of video games and monetization. Starting off with, at first, a very small step, a 3rd armor available to us in the Superstore, to then another step, no more stratagems through MOs, only Warbonds. Then we take a big leap, secondaries in the store, another leap, primaries in the store, to now the current new vehicles a la Mechs locked in a Warbond. I've also been around and seen lots of games start off with noble plans of being honorable with their microtransactions. But once that slide begins, it's damn hard to stop, leading up to fantasy superstores that could potentially look like this. You've got snow biomes unlocked for 150 credits, 5 times major order participation permits. You've got to pay to play the MOs, 250 credits, enemy wall clip countermeasures, 300 credits, Hellpod steering module, 120 SCs, and finally an extra emote slot unlocked for 40 SCs. Now, obviously, that's not a real Superstore offering, but it's there to shine a spotlight on what players are thinking. Way back when, it was a 3rd armor set that people kind of raised their eyebrows to. It was out of the norm. Then it became weapons in the Superstore, and now we're arriving at mechs being locked inside a paid Warbond. It's all these small changes where the goalposts are slowly moved, and before you know it, you've got the infamous horse armor popping up alongside XP boosters. We're not all about doom and gloom with Helldivers 2 though, so now that we've laid out the concerns, or at least most of them, let's offer up some remedies. Step number 1, based on the feedback coming in from Reddit, coming in from their own Discord, and of course different social channels, all showing doubts and concerns with Exo Experts, if I were Arrowhead right now, I just say screw it and go ahead and give every player this Warbond for free, take the mulligan and just move along. There's no way to split it up and to do it right, and there's not enough time to make the modifications to pull out the mechs from the Warbond and then to offer them up as major order rewards. Now, we've seen Arrowhead take this same strategy back when the original Killzone crossover hit the Superstore. Remember this one? And once the players got wind of how crazy expensive everything was for the first page, and of course the players went nuclear and the blowback towards the studio was then extreme. In fact, I remember it was so severe that Arrowhead stepped in, they admitted they were in the wrong with the pricing, and awarded page 2 of that Superstore to all players. In reality, the same thing needs to happen here. It's the only way to end this debacle so they can just move on and start over. If giving every player this Warbond just can't happen for, I don't know, contractual reasons, then just like we saw before Redacted Regiment went live, while it was being slightly delayed just prior to launch, Exo Experts also needs to then be delayed with an announcement explaining why. Now, the why is because if it launches as is, let's just call it like it is, it's dead on arrival. Arrowhead has to sort out what fantasy they're trying to deliver with armored vehicles, because their idea of a mech power fantasy and what the players are wanting are on opposite ends of the spectrum. There's a couple of key factors built into this imbalance, starting off with a long ago and probably forgotten patch change from December 2024 when exosuits picked up just a little bit of health but lost armor on their legs and arms while becoming more vulnerable to durable damage from projectiles. And keep in mind, this was December 24. Now at the time, this was done to preserve a sense of vulnerability. By the way, that's a direct quote from those patch notes because, yes, there's nothing like calling in a walking mech the size of a Hulk just so we can feel more vulnerable. Now, the second round of massive changes were actually more recent, just before we blitzed Cybersand to be exact, so that's February 3rd, and it's the patch that most players know, that greatly buffed enemy projectile durable damage versus all of our armored pieces ranging all the way from mechs to sentries. Now, those are the first two steps, but the dangerous rut they, the studio, are getting into is not fixing something unless it comes time for a paid Warbond to release that uses the very things that are weak or broken. For instance, and I'm sure you all know these, suppressors were busted for months, and even when many community members pushed back and said that they were busted, Arrowhead did not fix them. But just days before Redacted Regiment went live, they announced it was being delayed, and after a few days, it was back on track, and when that paid Warbond released, suppressors had been completely reworked to finally be effective. Fire was kind of in a meh or bad spot for a while. We kept telling Arrowhead it needed attention, and they really were all over the place with it up until just before Entrenched Division, which was built on fire. It was adjusted, and it felt good to use with the weapons included in that Warbond. But the question is, what are they going to be doing with mechs if they decide to push forward to next week? They've taken these things to the point that they are currently in a really weak state. Are they going to again fix them on the eve of releasing paid content that is said to be focused in on mechs? On a side note, but definitely related to this topic of Arrowhead sitting around and waiting to fix things until the eve of a paid Warbond is set to release, I wanted to show you this response I received just today, where someone tried defending Arrowhead's actions to me and their methods of not fixing something until it comes time to sell us a Warbond centered around that broken item, asking me how I could be complaining about mech durability when we haven't gotten the patch yet, because Arrowhead has literally been buffing things that were about to be released in Warbonds. First off, I'm not going to curse here, but I'm effing speechless. And secondly, this is the kind of just way off-kilter support that Arrowhead seems to latch onto. And not only is it completely wrong, it's the wrong way to address player issues, which I'm going to list out here as step number 3 for our list of remedies. As a studio, they need to stop living in echo chambers of their own design, such as their own Discord, surveys which are available through their own Discord, or when they choose to comb through a safe and familiar spot like the low-sodium Helldivers Reddit. I've got to tell you, all of this feedback is leading this studio astray. When a community member comes in and actually defends their actions, saying that it's okay because Arrowhead, which has left something weak and broken for months, is about to come in and make a bunch of adjustments just prior to a paid Warbond because they're going to buff the items in it to make them feel strong again, is one of the most back-assward comments and ways of thinking I've ever seen in my life. This is lunacy on the highest level, and I've got to tell you, I'm going to work my tail off to make sure this isn't the way things are allowed to go down with HD2. Man, the feedback is here, the experience is here, but you got to look for it outside of those familiar echo chambers, and that's where I would recommend Arrowhead starts concentrating. Sometimes I've got to tell you, it's going to be raw, it's going to be painful, but it is constructive, it's brutally honest, and it comes from a desire to make this game the best version of Helldivers 2 it can be. But yeah, that's all I've got for you in this one. I've got to say, right now I'm like 50-50 on if Arrowhead is going to surprise us in the next few days. and make that announcement about a delay or that we're just going to be getting the Warbond for free. But again, here's where I turn to you, my viewers. Drop a comment with your feedback and let's get a discussion going. If you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to receive my future upload alerts. If you're on mobile, please swipe to hype the video. And before I go, thanks to all of our new and current channel members, for without your support, content like this simply would not be possible. Until the next one, this is Lieutenant 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏